Thank you for clicking on my video. This is the second video in the resource farming trifecta. Um, Last video we discussed how to find information on where to farm something in game. We discussed the Warframe wiki. We discussed how to pick a node and a couple of tips on how to figure out if a resource drops from the planet itself or from a specific unit. This resource or this video is going to be about farming faster. So we're going to be discussing drop chances. We're going to be discussing ways to speed up. Going to be talking about loot frames. Going to be talking about pets. And to start talking about teams, like resource farming teams, and how to maximize your resource benefits. For your larger farms, this is going to be what most people would do. Um, Reference to boosters also, but nothing hyper excessive. This video will cover up to say like farming the Hema, which is probably one of the more painful farms. But by the end of this video, you should know how to farm the Hema in essentially an afternoon in the game, and how to speed it up. So first, let's talk about resource boosters. If you have access to the Steel Path, which is the secondary star chart, it's basically the same as the normal one, but the enemies start significantly stronger. Plus 100 levels, 250% enemy health, 250% shield, 250% armor. Comes with a 100% resource drop chance and a 100% mod drop chance. For this video, I'm going to assume you've gotten this far, or you are about to clear the star chart and have started clearing the Steel Path. I'll speak on referencing both of them, but from now on, any resource farming you're going to do, if you have access to the Steel Path, you need to default to that. And that is going to mean having your builds in order. So any farming from now on is Steel Path only. So let's talk about farm frames. Okay. The two main frames for farming are Necros, because of his third ability, Desecrate. I would highly recommend having a dedicated farm build on Necros. It's Necros is powerful on his own, but having a dedicated build for Necros for farming is extremely advantageous. He gets a 54% chance to roll a loot table again, gives you a ton of health orbs, interacts incredibly well with equilibrium. But in terms of bang for the buck from a single frame, Necros, when you're solo farming, is kind of the name of the game. You would need a reason to default off of him. This frame allows you to move around. This frame allows you a lot of survivability. He can get very tanky with some builds. So this is a camp build with 190%. If you are doing solo farming, you could run more of a Shadows of the Dead build. Just make sure to keep Despoil on and just kill as many enemies as you can. But he gets very, very tanky. I would really recommend having a specific build just for him. The other option just happened to get a new Prime is Cora. And she requires an augment called Pilfering Strangledome. The augment enemies held in Strangledome have a 65% chance of dropping additional loot. All that needs to happen is the Strangledome, her 4, needs to grab enemies, and as soon as they ragdoll, this chance triggers if you have this augment on her. Really, really good for camps. Her and Necros. Their drop chances synergize and boost your chance even more of getting additional loot. So it is really, really common to see a Korra and Necros, or a Korra and two Necroses farming together. Like a Korra with a double Necros team would be very effective at farming resources. But if you are running solo, I would recommend doing Necros. If you like moving around, if you're going solo and you like to camp and you don't like to run around, take Korra. As far as frames, these are your two main loot frames. The next thing is your pet. If you are doing a resource farm and you have already done your alloy plate farm and you have the Kavat upgrade segment, what you need to get is a Smita Kavat, 100%. And make sure to mod Charm on it. The Smita Kavat has a 28% chance every 27 seconds to bestow its owner with good fortune. There are a bunch of buffs on here, but the one particularly is the resource, or the pickup doubler. So if you were to pick up 100 alloy plate, it'll give you 200. And this stacks with most things, but definitely resources. So have a build. I recommend the synth set. Tech Assault is really good for keeping your pet alive. Tech Enhance makes the buff last longer. And the buffs are dependent on what the actual buff is. So some buffs are shorter than the other ones. But the charm takes a little bit of time to ramp up its effectiveness. So as the mission goes on, it gets more effective. But for your long runs, this is the name of the game. Another thing to consider to maximize your drop chance, specifically with Necros, not Korra. And this is the reason why Necros beats out Korra in terms of farming, is even though his extra loot chance is lower, Desecrate acts on body parts. So if you take a weapon that has more than 50% damage, so like the weapon right now that I have is the Dual Commas Prime. And if you look at the IPS on the right, it's 22 impact, 88 puncture, and 330 slash. When I kill an enemy, there is a mechanic in this game based on the characteristics of the weapon, where if more than 50% of my damage is slash, so it has to be 51 or greater, an enemy will get cut in half, and each of those body parts can get desecrated, thus helping us get more loot. So because these two because those two interact with each other, Necros beats out Korra. Because if Korra slashes something and cuts it in half, there's no bonus loot on body parts. But with Necros, there is. So for Necros, if you're doing solo farming, go Necros. If you really just want to like hang out and do like a long run, Korra is the way to go with Pilfering Strangledome. But you will be getting less resources. So solo farming and you like to move around, Necros with a slash weapon and a Smita Kavat. All right, let's talk about groups. The meta right now, July 30th, 2022, is a Korra with at least one Necros. So a Korra, two Necroses, and a Nova. Or a Korra, a Necros, a Wisp, and a Nova. and specifically a Speedva, so a Nova with as little power strength as possible. So you would equip something. Actually, I can just show you the build. Let's see what we got. This one. See how low my power strength is? I have overextended and power donation, and it drops me down to 10%. Now, I am way over the speed up cap, but the power donation helps allies, so it's good to go. It gives them 30 and reduces 30 from me, so any sort of bonus that I might get from, say, like a relic fisher would keep me under or keep my power strength low enough that it wouldn't slow down the enemy's speed if I got a fisher buff. So this is the meta build: as low a power strength as possible, power donation to keep it low, but this will speed up the enemies. More enemies getting to you faster means they die faster from Korra, means more loot, means more spawns. Because as enemies clear out faster, the game will then spawn more enemies. So this is a force multiplier, if you will. So this is sort of the icing on the cake for a farm team. But if it's Korra and double Necros, that's fine also. But it's just not as good as a Nova also as the 4th slot. So that would be the optimum farm team. You could also do Wisp, but Wisp is a little bit more effective against Corpus units because a lot of times they blow up like robotics and whatnot. But against Grineer, you would go double Necros. If you guys find yourself dying a lot, swap out one of the Necroses for a Wisp, and that should help a lot. It just won't be as much loot as a double Necros build, or as a double Necros team. So let's talk about temporary mission buffs. So last mission we talked about nodes, okay? Particularly dark sectors. Oh, everything just swapped over. So we have resource drops chance buff, and these are what we look for for regular star chart. But in order to multitask, we actually have fishers. And this is a little bit more coordination. But before, I showed how to look up a location for where something drops. So going back to alloy plate, if I can spell it right. Okay, so Venus Phobos. I'm going to cheat again just to reinforce. Alright, we got our snip. And then I am then going to check what fishers are available. Okay, so Venus. Whoops. Okay, so we have a rescue on Venus. And what I am looking for is a long, endless mission. So an excavation, a survival preferably, or a defense is okay too in this scenario. So what I'm looking for is Venus. Okay, we have one on Venus, but it's a rescue. Phobos. I don't see one. Oh, we have a capture on Phobos. Okay. So that's not endless. Ceres. Venus, Jupiter, Neptune, Void. Okay, nothing on Ceres. Jupiter. Oh, look at this. We got a survival on Jupiter. But it say we're farming alloy plate. The alloy plate isn't the common drop on Jupiter, so we would try to stay away from that. But if we have to do it, we might, and we'll just open relics as we go. Pluto. Not on here. Let me scroll down. Okay, there is a Pluto, but it's a rescue. Alright, let's see what else we got. The final one is Sedna. Okay, we have a rescue on Sedna. So not endless. So we wouldn't be able to take advantage of this unless we did, what was it? Unless we just sort of grin and bared it and did the survival and just dealt with the fact that it's a rare. But you wouldn't want to do this. And this would be a temporary buff. Because as you do endless missions, every rotation that you do in the reward pool gives you a temporary buff. And it goes all the way up to 100%. Which it will match the buff of Steel Path. So this would be an intermediate, but the difference is those Steel Path is obviously Steel Path. You get the double resource, or you get the 100% resource, and the 100% mod drop chance. The difference is you're farming relics at the same time. So if you can do a survival and a defense, and due to the fissures, if it temporarily lines up on a survival or a defense, ideally a survival, I can't stress that enough, you would then prefer to do this type of mission. So you always have to check, because obviously these rotate out. But because alloy plate's rare here, we can't really take care of the Jupiter buff. So now the big thing with advanced farming is there are a couple other things that you can now take care of, and a couple of years ago you can't. You couldn't. There's also relay buffs, the blessings. If you are new to the game and just sort of watching this video to see what I'm talking about, one of the things I would advise is, if you know you're going to be playing Warframe, and even I find I'm doing this when there's like new content out. Say like I just got home from work and like I'm going to take a shower or something like that. Okay, see how I just got a credit blessing? Gonna thank him. Like, I just got home from work, and like I know I'm gonna play a little bit of Warframe, but like I got some dishes, or maybe like I'm gonna take my dogs out or something. One of the things you can do is take your Warframe, and while you go do everything else, just drop it in a relay. And when you get back, you'll have a bunch of buffs. And one of them is a resource drop chance buff, which I just got. Now, it's not a great drop chance buff, but a buff is a buff, right? Like, it's a resource drop chance, so if it triggers, you get loot. So if I know I'm going to be playing Warframe for a bit, I will just leave my Warframe while I go do like my honeydew list. I will just leave my Warframe in a relay and collect buffs when I'm not at my computer yet. So this way speeds everything up a little bit, and it's a little bit extra. But if you're trying to stay free to play, if you're trying not to buy resources, or not buy resources, don't ever buy resources. Don't ever buy resources. But if you're trying not to buy boosters, this is a valid way to increase the amount of experience and everything that you get from the game. So let's see, that's the pet, that's the team itself, additional temporary nodes. Okay, so basically you would then go for survivals, and man, it doesn't feel like I've talked at all. I'm already at 20 minutes. Okay, let's talk about boosters. These are... You would need to be looking at a really big farm for this to be justified at all. But basically, this is a farm twice as fast plat button. If you are farming, and say you have a clan and you're farming up the Hema, which is research for those that don't know, it might be justified doing a 3-day resource booster and a 3-day resource drop chance booster if it's a big farm. Or worse, and I'll talk about this in the next video, but like, say you're decorating a dojo. If you're running like a new clan or something, and you don't really have people that can help you yet, or would benefit from doing the same farm also, these can be excellent accelerators. It literally 4x's what you get. Because this stacks, it's 100%, it doesn't say it, but it's 100% resource drop chance. And then this doubles it. Well, if you take this and go and find a Fisher, not a Steel Path mission, but a Fisher, the Fisher buff will reach 100% also, and these stack multiplicatively. So you'll be getting 4 times the resource drop chance. So it's 100% and then 100% again. So it doubles it and then it doubles it again to give you 4x, which is the maximum you can get. So if you're running one of these, you can then run a Fisher, and the Fisher buff eventually will climb. I think it starts out at 25, and then the next set of rotations, it goes to 50, and then the next set of rotations, it goes to 75, and then the next set of rotations, it goes to 100. Will then push you even higher. Okay? So eventually, after several rotations in a Fisher, you're getting more resources than Steel Path, but obviously that's a lot of time. So like a defense mission, what was it be? 25 rounds, 50 rounds, 75, 100 rounds. I don't think I said that right. 100 waves before it maxes. And for a survival, it would be what? 25 minutes times 4. So 100 minutes, that'd be an hour and 40 minutes into a survival. I think I just did my math poorly. But you know what I mean? Like, it takes a couple rotations to get the buff. This is definitely in longer run territory, where you're starting to get into long runs. But if you're doing this, the Fisher buff actually beats Steel Path eventually. So if you're sitting down with a group of your people and you guys like doing survivals, and you just want to get in Discord and chat and hang out, or maybe somebody wants to play a movie in Discord and you guys just chill, Fishers are the way to go. Like, you get more resources from Fishers eventually if you guys want to sit in a survival for 3 hours. But yeah, food for thought. This is where it peaks at. And if you guys are farming like the Hema up, which is 5,000 mutagen samples, if a Fisher for Terrorim, which is where you would want to farm mutagen samples, pops up randomly, dudes, just run Terrorim with your bunch of people from your clan or your alliance that are willing to help you. You can knock out the Hema in like 2.5 hours, and it's 5,000 samples. And like, that's not even like hyper farming yet. Like, literally just 4 people running around killing stuff on Terrorim. Like, you can knock out the Hema in like no time. And 2 hours would be like slow. Like, literally an afternoon, 5,000 mutagen samples. So there are circumstances where, like, literally time-wise, if you are farming something that large, and it's not like dojo decorations, which I'm going to talk about in the final one, there are definite justifications for doing this. Because the booster is just for you. The resource drop chance is for everybody, and this caps. But if you're running this, the Smita goes on top of this also. So you can end up pick up huge amounts of resources. But I think that's good enough for this video. Fishers will eventually beat out Steel Path, because there's no Steel Path Fishers. But it's pure RNG on what's available at that time. But if it lines up with what you're farming, always keep it in mind. Survivals are obviously still preferred. Then defense, and basically any endless. If you get good at excavation, those can be very rewarding also. I know I put off farming the Cyber and actually ran into it being a Darvo deal for like 75% off, and I snatched it. It's literally the only weapon I bought. Because like 30k cryotic can take quite a bit of time, even with a bunch of boosters going and a proper farm team. So Korra, double Necros, Nova. Everybody's running Smitas. Um, Make sure to pick up your relay boost, your relay blessings. Um, and I think that's good for this video. I've somehow managed to talk for 25 minutes. Thank you.